Welcome to the Outdoor Adventure Lifestyle Podcast, where we dive into inspiring stories, thrilling adventures, and expert insights from leaders and legends across the outdoor adventure community. Whether you're an avid hiker, passionate camper, or adventure traveler, each episode brings you up close and personal with guests who've lived it, explored it, and made it their mission to share their experiences with you. Let's get after it. Welcome back, everyone. I'm excited to share this conversation with fellow A16er, polar explorer, and speaker Sunniva Sorby. Sunniva has traveled the world not only exploring wild places, but also sharing those stories on stages near and far. Welcome to the show, Sunniva.
Thank you. So good to see you, Rick.
Yeah, good to see you too. I think the last time I saw you was in Banff, not Banff, one of the outdoor adventure
I
TA
wonder
thing,
if the
wasn't it?
last time we saw each other was in Denver.
Maybe. There's an
Um,
ATTA event somewhere.
an ATTA event. Yeah, that's quite possible.
Yeah.
Before I quit my job.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Somewhere, but long
Yeah,
time. Yeah. Good to talk.
fantastic.
Good to talk to you. Good to see you. I look forward to working our way through these questions and hearing what you've been up to.
Yeah, it's hard to keep a good woman down, right?
Hey, man, it should be hard to keep anybody down these days. You
No,
got
and
so
it's
many
just
places
it's
to get
it's
out.
so important to keep moving, I think.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Mhm.
I can relate to that. Yeah. So let's rewind the clock a little bit. What first sparked your love for adventure and outdoors? How did working at A16 shape your journey? I think it shaped all of our journeys who work there.
Oh, yeah, you are so right about that. When I think about that, I was working as a computer programmer for a bank in Norway in my 20s. And I think it's fair to say I was quite bored. I'd been working there for several years. I was in a great relationship and was in my native homeland and had bought my first place. And I went to Montreal to visit my mom on my yearly pilgrimage to see her
Hmm.
and found a pamphlet for an outdoor leadership school in Canmore, Alberta.
Oh,
So
wow.
I quit that job, went and took this course, and that changed everything. And then I went to A16 in Orange County because it was a press slideshow on women who rock climb. And I thought, wow,
Uh-huh.
this is going to be so cool.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I met John Allen, who sadly isn't with us anymore.
Mhm.
He became my best buddy. And and it happened to be my birthday, March 17th, and he invited me back in the office and we chatted and he hired me. And I think he just saw this young, enthusiastic, as budding outdoor something.
Yeah.
And so I was running we had a travel center.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I was running that for a little bit, but A16 was my foundation, my launching pad for my career, really.
Gotcha.
It was a time when I was the first time I experienced having a tribe,
Mm-hmm.
of kindred spirits around me
Yeah.
that all loved to be outside, loved learning, and loved hanging out together.
Yeah.
So it was where I really started amassing tools in my toolbox.
Gotcha.
And
How long were you there? You were there for a while, right?
wow, I was there on and off for many, many years
Yeah.
because I'll never forget marching into John Dee's office in San Diego with a letter that I had written out so I wouldn't forget what I was saying, telling him that I'm going on a ski trip. He thought I was going to go, for a weekend somewhere. And I
Right,
said,
right.
no, I've been invited to ski across Antarctica. And he's like,
Uh,
what?
yeah.
But yeah, A16 was really a place where I was kind of allowed to fail,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
try something, take risks, because I was supported by people in the industry who were doing the same thing. And yeah, that was a very defining time in my life for certain.
Yeah, and I think that was for all of us that work there. I mean, we know so many people there. We were there at a great time, I think, not only for the outdoor space, but for A16 as well. It was just rocking and rolling, and the swap meets were huge, and we had great camaraderie amongst the staff, all stores.
Yeah,
And
it was a really, really special time, in our
yeah,
world. And this is pre social media and all of that. It was
right.
our engagement was with each other in the outdoors. It wasn't like tethered to a phone.
And you're probably like me. I talk to many people to this day that I met at A16,
Yeah, me
or
too.
do stuff with them still. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I just recently reconnected with Rebecca Rush.
Uh-huh.
And because I hosted her on something I was doing called Pioneers of the Possible. And I hadn't seen her in over 30 years.
Wow.
And she was the first person I really admired. She was living out of her orange truck at the time, her Bronco,
Mhm.
and was just doing everything. And I thought, wow,
Yeah. She was on the
there's
show.
so many
Yeah.
different ways to live.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And outside too, right? You do all kinds of things outside. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And so now you've blended exploration and activism so beautifully. Was there a defining moment when you realized you wanted your adventures to stand for something bigger?
Yeah, Rick, actually there was. And where was I? I'm in Comox on Vancouver Island right now. And I think
Hmm.
at the time yes, I was living in Squamish, which
Hmm.
is on the mainland. And I was working for a polar operator.
Mm.
And I went to an ATTA event in Alaska and met this woman who's been holding up the Arctic at a time when I was kind of holding up the Antarctic. This is post South Pole expedition. And it was right before we thought we were going to elect the first female president of the United States.
Mm. Hmm.
And I had a group of friends that were going to go to the inauguration. And I had bought tickets and secured hotel and airfare and all that. Was going to go with my sister. And we know what happened. That
Yep.
was all upended. And I decided at that time to show up for the March on Washington.
Mm.
And it's the first time that I actually showed up for like a movement like that. And it was unbelievable.
I'll
It
bet.
was really emotional on
I'll
many
bet.
levels.
Oh
I
yeah.
was there with the Canadian flag and Hilda came. My sister decided not to go. And Hilda came from the Arctic with the Norwegian flag. And I really understood, more than speaking about what we care about, showing up for the things we care about. And
Yep.
that experience really changed things for me.
Hmm. Interesting. I did the same thing to an Earth First rendezvous in the Big Lost River, somewhere up in Idaho, in the middle of nowhere, and met Doug Peacock there. And it was just the same kind of thing. Just, being around that group at that time
Yeah,
really solidifies all the outdoor environmental things that you're doing and we've done. And yeah, that's awesome.
absolutely. And we
That's
look at
cool.
what's happening today. It's just the
Oof.
war of the swarm, that is really what affects quantum social change.
Hmm.
They are these, grassroots movements, right?
Yeah.
With a positive political agenda. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, showing up. That was it right there, that moment, that weekend.
Very cool. Yeah. Must have been a
Hmm.
fun weekend.
It was.
And now you've spoken to so many audiences over the years, students, CEOs, fellow adventurers. What's the most common reaction you get to your adventurous story and life?
Wow. Honestly, and it's a question that I sometimes get triggered to ask other people too. Everybody says, "What's next?" And it's a dangerous kind of trap for us,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
next? But I think that when I share, at least in the beginning, when I started sharing the things that I'd done, I was still trying to work out how to make things relevant for other people.
Mm.
When I was on the South Pole expedition, I was 30 and I had this definition of myself:
Hmm.
fit, capable, young. You know, I thought strength was never quitting.
Hmm.
And I thought success meant reaching the end, right?
Hmm.
And I got completely stripped of that because I was very sick with bronchitis, tendonitis, and systemic edema.
Oof.
And Bancroft, our expedition leader, actually thought I was going to fall into a hypothermic sleep.
Yeesh.
And we know, Rick, that that's the kind of sleep you don't wake up
That's
from.
not a good one. Yeah.
No, I was in bad shape. And so that expedition really stripped me of my ego, so to
Hmm.
speak,
Hmm.
and helped me redefine and how I looked at myself and the world. And I felt even more empathetic towards people that were struggling
Hmm.
with things, both, maybe mentally, physically, emotionally. And I started to talk more about my story in that way,
Hmm.
as opposed to the accomplishment. And so over time, when I speak to the CEOs or the students or the scientists, I am speaking to them. I am making my message relevant to the audience
Hmm.
and try to be vulnerable and personal, because I think people perceive people like ourselves who have done pretty big, bold things as maybe unattainable or separate from
Right.
who they
Right.
might be or what they might be capable of. And I just try to bring myself down notches
Yeah,
to
yeah,
them
yeah. Yeah.
and
Well,
help
because I
them
think some of us
understand.
that, like you, that have done all these things, you think you can do anything, and you push yourself to the limit sometimes to complete that
Yeah,
expedition or whatever it is. And you're right. You got to take a step back and realize that, yeah, this is not the end of the world here. There's other things back home that I need to be
that's
tending
right.
to and be able to go back to and take care of.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, and help people understand that they're far more powerful than they think they are. We
Mhm.
underestimate ourselves a lot. This gets in the way.
Yeah. Yeah, on both sides. And we underestimate us. Easy for me to say. We underestimate ourselves in different ways too, right? Not only physical, but mental as well. I think sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for all the great things that, we've learned and, we can do physically. It's because it's physical. I think it's easier to take stock of that inventory, but mentally you don't realize all the power that you have.
That's right. Yeah, it's so true. And if anything, I've just tried to be kind of a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Take it, maybe the focus is here, but I just try to turn it so it's the focus is out there.
I like that.
And I've been doing that for decades now. And I really enjoy it because I feel like more than ever, our world needs some inspiration and some light and possibility of, things that are not connected to a telephone
Mm-hmm.
or a
Mm-hmm.
screen.
Mm-hmm.
We need people to be examples of the infinite possibility that we all
That's
are. I
right.
mean,
That's right.
it's that
Infinite is
simple,
right.
eh?
Yeah, 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 yeah. And care and nurturing too. I think some of us get so what physically worn or mentally worn from the things we're doing that sometimes you need to take someone aside and say, you know what, we just need to go for a walk and not try to bag a peak. Let's go have a sandwich on the trail.
Moments, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There's so many
absolutely.
possibilities.
You're so
Yeah,
right about that.
yeah. So many ways to slice that ham. So is there one story that never fails to light people up when you share it on stage? A place or
They have
maybe?
been varied over the years just because of different expeditions,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
think if I were to reach my hand into the bag of most recent things,
Mm-hmm.
it would probably be the story of a polar bear that we followed for 19 months for the Norwegian Polar Institute.
Mm-hmm.
And her number was N26131. And
Ah,
we gave her the name Violet because COVID happened. I missed all of COVID. I was up in the Arctic in total
wow.
isolation.
Great
And
place
the
to be.
researchers couldn't get out in the field. It was amazing, actually.
Yeah.
And so we were given a set of GPS coordinates and we set off on our snowmobiles, for 4 hours into this glacier and we found her.
Wow.
And it was like a needle in a haystack because we're searching in a world of white for a white polar bear. Almost impossible, but there she was.
Yeah.
And I think that story is really powerful because, she became our bear.
Mm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
people might have we all love animals. We're so connected to them and it was a profound experience to actually be in her world on her terms.
Right. Right.
And then to learn
Sends a chill up
about
your
the
spine,
polar
doesn't it?
bears. What's that?
Sends a chill up your spine, doesn't it?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the moment when she saw us, and she had a 4-month-old cub with her because they come
Mm-hmm.
out of the den in March,
Mm-hmm.
and we saw her in April. And because they keep the little cubs in the den until they're ready to get out of the den,
Right.
and so a brand new baby cub, and then she saw us, and we had oh my God. We had to beat feet so fast. Hilda dropped her camera stuff and I picked it up and then we ran over to the snowmobiles and took
Oof.
off
Wow.
because you do not want to be in the way of a polar bear with a cub, right?
Yep. Any bear with a cub. Yeah.
Yeah, we were far away. We had a
Yeah.
400 millimeter lens with us.
Mm-hmm.
So we were pretty far away, but still.
Yeah.
And then again, the following year, we saw her. She had lost her cub and had given birth to two new ones. So I know her story. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she's
Mm-hmm.
19 years old now.
Gee.
She's had 17 cubs in her lifetime,
Wow.
and only 4 of them have survived.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So people love this story because, there's science around it.
Yeah.
There's like we're living in a world of climate change, biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, all this
Mm-hmm.
shit, right?
Right.
And a Violet story kind of becomes everybody's story,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I just kind of encourage people to find their bear. whatever it is.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
could
that's
be a
good.
hummingbird. It could be a black bear. It could be
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Mm.
That's so, you're right though. It's so amazing to see that stuff up there. It's we're fortunate to do that.
Yeah.
So from the Arctic to the boardroom, how do you tailor the message to inspire such a wide range of listeners? Because you speak to all kinds of people, right? CEOs and other
Yep.
kinds of folks. How do you tweak that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, when I am speaking to leaders out there, it's really important to talk about values-based leadership
Mm-hmm.
that's legacy minded.
Mm,
So many people are thinking very short term, all about the bottom line.
mm-hmm.
And I feel very strongly because I'm inspired by those who are legacy minded, like Jane Goodall,
Mm-hmm.
to give one example, that are really out there pounding the pavement, not for themselves, for the sake of our entire planet. So when I'm speaking to leaders, it's really about strategy and, holding their entire team accountable for what choices we're making,
Mm-hmm.
decisions that we make, right?
Yeah.
And so I do a lot of homework on who I'm speaking to.
Right.
What are they doing? What are they not doing? Because there are so many different ways we can couch and hide
Mm-hmm.
what we're really doing.
Mm-hmm.
We can
And
make things look much better than they really are, right?
yeah, and these days it seems like you probably tailor that. You can't, I'm spitballing here, but I'm guessing that you can take one generic thing you're going to talk about, but you probably tailor that 80 ways from Sunday to
Oh,
every different audience because everybody's got, seems like we've all now got a different set of things,
yeah,
even though there's the big planet and the big, wildlife and the big refuge that we're working in, all those things, but we've all got 80 million things besides that. And
absolutely. I think,
it's got to take a lot of work to figure that out for your audience.
well, it does, but I think that's our responsibility and
Yeah,
our
yeah.
role. I think that what I've done kind of gets me to the door.
Right.
And then I open the door and I throw it wide open to expose what the real issues are.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
it's not about aggrandizing somebody who's done something really amazing. It's about helping them understand their role and responsibility, not just to their company
Hmm.
and their work ethos, but their employees and, whatever they're servicing out there.
Right.
If
Hmm.
they are in a service industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And how do you sort through the digital noise and distractions? How do you keep your connection so strong to help others find a similar connection?
Oh boy. When I came back from the Arctic, and actually today is officially 4 years to the day that we came out of Arctic isolation after 19 months.
Oh, wow.
Can you
Okay.
believe that?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And
Good
we were
timing on my
thrown
part.
out.
No,
What's
not
that?
right. Good timing on my part. It was luck.
Good job, Rick. Yeah, we were thrown and we said yes to everything. So we were traveling around and I got burned out after 2 years of doing
Right.
that.
Hmm.
And then I spent a year kind of feeling a little bit lost. I'm sure I had post-traumatic stress,
Mm-hmm.
but in a different way
Yep. Hmm.
because I went from an experience of total connectedness to myself,
Hmm.
and I needed one other person 100% of the time. We never walked outside alone because of the polar bears.
Right. Right.
And I was living in a world of purpose on purpose. And then I come back here and I'm kind of not needed anymore.
Right.
And I fell into a depression for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and it was not good. I wasn't happy, and I took time off. And then I found myself last year at a monastery in France,
Mm.
in a Plum Village. It was founded by Thich Nhat Hanh,
Okay. Yeah. Hmm.
and the Tibetan monk, or the monk, a Vietnamese monk, excuse me, who was exiled from Vietnam during the war, and France took him in, and he
Hmm.
founded this monastery.
It's a great story too.
Yeah, and I was invited there by Cristiana Figueres. She's a Costa Rican diplomat,
Mm.
and she is responsible for bringing 195 countries together to broker the Paris Agreement.
Wow.
And she has realized over the years that people like myself who are in the climate space and trying to hold, some positive stuff out there,
Yeah.
we're fried. We're
Yeah.
burnt out,
Yeah.
because all of the stimulus that you were just talking about is
Yeah.
coming at us.
Yeah.
There's too much information, too much divisiveness out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went there for this climate and nature retreat
Hmm.
for 6 days and lived, the monk schedule. And we sat and chatted with them about how to hold space for grief and what we've given up to do the work we're doing. Like maybe we gave up relationships or
Mm-hmm.
jobs or for the fight,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And there were 120 people there from around the world,
Wow.
and
Cool.
there was deep stuff going on.
I'll bet.
And
And a lot of
answered
variety
your
of deep
question.
stuff. I'll
What's
bet that was interesting. A lot of variety of deep stuff. That was fascinating.
fascinating.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to do any networking. There was none of that going on. It wasn't really to hold space for the suffering in our world and the suffering that all of us are feeling as a result of knowing what we know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Unknown caller.
All right. And so I came back from that retreat and I decided to include more meditation and quiet time and limit the input.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm really careful about watching the news.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really careful about how I engage with social media
Mm-hmm.
because it's this vacuum, it takes away all the good stuff.
Yep. Yep.
And I don't want to be.
And it's never ending. It's always there. It's always, even though there might be different issues and different things, it's the same generally.
Yeah.
And you just, and it'll drive you into a hole.
Yeah. So I've been trying just to do the things that we know are good for us, right? Like you mentioned earlier, just get out for a walk and have that sandwich on a rock with somebody, just have a moment.
Exactly.
And I do a lot of that. That's part of my day. And because I realize when I'm very busy up here, I'm not creative in here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And creativity is a very big part of my life. So I like to write a lot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I have a project I'm working on there. So
Awesome.
It's kind of fun. Yeah.
Good.
So that's kind of what I do to keep things light and positive and connected.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a battle, but good on you. You got to keep fighting
Thanks.
that fight, right? Yeah. Can you tell us about a time when you faced fear or certainty in the wild and how that moment changed you? Was there some big, we've all got our, our class 5 raft flip, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think what came screaming forward right now, and I had quite a few things that I've been scared of, fear of the dark, fear of not being enough, fear of success, fear of failure. But the thing that just came flooding forward when you asked that is January, it was New Year's Day, and I'm on the expedition across Antarctica to the South Pole. And I was so sick. And I was not just afraid of the physical part being completely broken.
Mm-hmm.
I had nothing left up here.
Oh, wow.
And that scared me because it really horrified me because I felt like I was losing it.
Right.
Like I was losing myself, and I really was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we had a call sign. We were skiing single file, and it was like when you ski poles crossed up in the air means stop. And I was last in line of the four of us. And I just said, I'm done. I can't go on anymore today. I don't have another step. I don't have another thought, nothing to give me juice.
Right.
And then Sue Giller, she quipped, well, that's good because it'll give us more time to soak our freeze-dried vegetables or whatever we had, And it was that moment that kind of switched things a little
Broke
bit.
the ice. Yeah.
Don't take yourself so seriously. But I broke down that day and I lost the old me to become the new me. But I was horrified in that moment. I was really, really scared. And now I'm not afraid of those moments anymore. I think they're just sort of an evolution, right? A process of stripping.
Yeah, like everything. I mean, from exercise to mental capacity, you have to go through that hard work and pain to get there.
That's right.
And there's no other way, right? I mean, you can do a half-assed job and you won't get as fit or as smart or whatever. But if you go willing to push through that physicality, you'll get there.
You're so right about that. And we have this idea of what we're capable of and who we are, but it's like we're always wrong.
Yeah, and there's so much more. I mean, we always sell ourselves short. Yeah. That's very cool. Yeah. We're going to take a little break and give some love to our sponsor, Thrive Market. Think organic groceries are too expensive? So does Thrive Market.
They guarantee savings on healthy groceries and home essentials delivered. How? It's easy. They work directly with the best organic brands so you get the highest quality products without the big retail markups. Shop everything from pantry essentials to sustainable meat and seafood to non-toxic cleaning supplies, and save up to 30% on your favorite products. Choose a free gift up to $24 in value when you purchase a Thrive Market membership. 1 year and 1 month memberships are available. Go to ricksaez.com/Thrive Market and get your membership today. That's ricksaez.com/Thrive Market. Now, back to the show.
And so you're not just out there for the thrill. Your work is a call to action. How do you help people turn inspiration into real impact when it comes to protecting the planet?
Yeah, that's been the big question, and I wish there was a one size fits all for that. But there isn't a one size fits all for that. And I thought, with all the people I've been meeting around the world after the Arctic, that for sure somebody had the answer. I mean, I'm sure I was going to meet them at some point. And boy, was I wrong about that. I've taken so many courses on, climate leadership for climate change and sustainability, Zen and the art of saving the planet. And, the bottom line is it's such an inside job. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just trying to be that example. Mm-hmm. And so what I steer people towards today is the notion of community engagement through citizen science. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know what that is. And it's just citizens, people like you and me, contributing real observation and, data to relevant research projects, all focused on our changing world. And it could be, it could be downloading iNaturalist, it could be joining SciStarter, it could be observing clouds for NASA. Yeah. And those are all available on our phone, which we all have. And it's one way to get people to open the door. Yeah. Yeah. And they think it's about the app and recording something, but then they get to understand, why that species is being threatened or what's happening. And you learn so much about the natural world. And I think that's a way that I try to inspire engagement, is by getting people to get outside. Yeah. Yeah. And how they can do that is, with one of these apps, to understand what is it that they're looking at.
Right. No, that's awesome. I think there's so many ways to get outside, and you don't always have to go outside and do something for the app, or do just like we talked earlier, just go have your sandwich on the rock,
Just go observe, find a quiet sit spot somewhere. Yeah. I think we're losing, if not almost lost, many of us, the importance of silence. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And quiet.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. That's something that has been with me since I was a little kid, though, apparently.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know what that is, but I've always been the quiet loner guy. I can, get after it with the best of them, but, that's why I'm still single. It's just like, it's enough to take myself through the world, and I think that a lot of us go through that, but you still have to engage with others, engage with projects, and do what you can do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with, and I was listening to something recently that I thought was kind of interesting. There's nothing wrong with being alone.
Right.
Because when you become comfortable with your own company, you realize that you're just the furthest thing from alone.
Right. Right.
But you have to kind of be okay with your own company instead of looking out there for that thing to identify with. I think that we need to identify here first.
Agree 100%. That's well put. Yep. And a lot of people dream about doing something adventurous or meaningful, but they never take the leap. What would you say to someone who's stuck on the edge of their own next step?
Yeah, I would say get out of your head.
Yeah.
Because I think limiting thoughts and beliefs are really what hold people back. And we're afraid to fail.
Yep.
And so we don't take risks. And I think it really matters that we actually, when we've all heard this, step out of your comfort zone. And what does that mean? Well, it actually means step out of your comfort zone.
Right.
And just take that little risk. And that gives us power and kind of agency. And then we feel like, man, I did that. It doesn't matter what it is. Just one little thing that you haven't done before. And then
it could mean going for a walk in the rain outside. Maybe you're an inside person and you do things outside, but not in the bad weather. Put your rain jacket on, go for a
That's
walk
it.
around the block. It won't kill you, you know.
That's it. And like one example, a lot of people aspire to write a book.
Yeah.
Well, you don't write a book in one day.
Right.
It's like if you're going to eat a piece of steak, you don't eat the whole steak in one bite.
Yeah.
And I think the power of having a routine, doing a little bit, showing up 15 minutes a day for that one thing that you want to do,
Yeah.
that you dream of doing, whether it's going somewhere or challenging yourself somehow, 15 minutes a day, and you do it every day and you repeat that every single day, even if you don't do anything for it, but you show up for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
That's made it possible for me to do the big things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those of us that discover that realize it doesn't take a lot.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people that are hung up on that next step is they look at the whole steak
And it's overwhelming.
and it's like, whoa, God, I can't do that. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, one piece at a time. Yeah.
And it's because any big thing that's happened has only happened one thought, one step at a time.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
That's the only way I've done anything.
That's right. That's right. The only way any of us have done anything.
Yeah.
So you've led some groundbreaking polar expeditions. What's it like to mentally and emotionally live in that extreme isolation? That's got to be a huge challenge, daily, hourly.
You know, the beginning is challenging because you're disconnecting from the world that you left to go into a new world, a
The
new
transition.
space.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like going to space, actually.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, I feel more myself out there than I do in here.
Me too.
And I think part of the reason is because I am needed. I need to show up. And I wish that I had spent more time collecting stories from my grandparents and my parents, because they lived in a world where you had to chop wood, carry water, right?
That's right.
And we don't need to do that today unless we're living in Bishop somewhere.
That's true. Somewhere in Bishop you could do that. That's right.
Yeah. And I just feel I'm just that kind of person where I love to be included in the act of living.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love to be needed in my life and participate. And so when I'm out in those spaces of silence and remoteness, I know people have been afraid for me because of different things, weather and polar bears, things like that.
Right.
But I feel most connected. It's a really interesting thing. So maybe there's no surprise that people say, what's next, you know?
Yeah.
But the challenge now is, I mean, I'm still physically pretty strong, but I'm not going to do long things like that. So I think the challenge is really finding how to incorporate many episodes like that.
Many adventures. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I've been trying to do, living in the city and even around Bishop sometimes. Bishop is so amazing because it's got it all, right? You can just go for an amazing walk, down the road and off the path, or you can go do the big peak. It's runs the gamut. But I think those small daily tidbits, the little bites, help you get through all those things to go do the big things.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to keep adding to the tank.
That's right. Yeah, keep it full. How do you maintain hope and drive in the face of today's climate challenges? What keeps your fire burning?
I it's funny because I've shared this recently that of all the fears I've had, what I fear today is complacency and kind of apathy.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a lot of hope, and where I find the hope, I've been doing a lot of work with schools here on the island, and assemblies and classroom presentations, and I find hope and inspiration from the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just they're not angry, about what's happening, but they're taking action. And they're using their creativity and their smarts, and they're so much smarter at a younger age today because of technology, and they're using it to their advantage. And that really gives me hope.
Yeah. It's amazing the way they use technology. I think I first noticed it in my nephew with an iPhone. It just was like an extension of his hand. It's amazing whipping that thing out and doing.
And it's easy for us to criticize that they're being impacted by it, but I think many of them are using it as a force for good. So
exactly, and as a tool, it's a different tool for them.
Absolutely.
It came into our lives differently, and in their lives, it's just another tool to navigate
we
life
can
with.
kind of go like that because it wasn't what we grew up with, but we need to get on board and understand that used the right way, it's actually a very, very powerful mechanism for engagement.
Yeah, with the world now too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So lastly, since we've been talking about it, what's next? What big projects or exhibitions are on the
That.
horizon? You knew that was coming.
Oh boy, what's
If you can
next?
share, if not, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I have a book in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out to one of the monks from Plum Village, and it may be sort of a collaborative effort, kind of like a woman's search for meaning, because not man's search for meaning, Viktor Frankl, but yeah, just that. And I have this company that I started called Embrace the Planet Project. And it really is about civic engagement using citizen science and trying to work on stewardship curriculum for some of the schools that incorporate citizen science and civic engagement, for the kids. I'm continuing to get out there on the speaking circuit because I do love that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe someday I'll host a podcast with you.
There we go. There we go. I see it happening. I see it happening. I think it could be a good one.
Yeah.
If people don't learn anything, at least it'll be entertaining.
Absolutely. And I do have a project that I'm going to do on Vancouver Island in a couple of years with my friend Jamita. She's 32 years old and she was the James Bond girl stunt double.
Wow.
She's an awesome woman. And we're going to hike the length of Vancouver Island.
Oh, cool.
That'll be over several months and visit all the indigenous communities along the way and help, bring those stories to life.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom's brother lived on Vancouver Island for many years. I was a bunch of times. Yeah, yeah. Beautiful spot.
Come visit.
Yeah, I need to get up there. Yeah, I will.
Canada welcomes you anytime.
We'll plan an adventure.
That'd be great, Rick.
Yeah, yeah.
Love it.
We'll do some podcast recording in the wild. How about that?
Yeah, something live from the field.
Yeah.
Bring your camera. You can teach me some things with your camera.
I don't know how to do live stuff, but I know how to do other things. So
I know how to do live things.
Perfect.
There we go.
Perfect. There you go. Yeah, awesome. And a couple fun questions here. Do you have a favorite piece of gear you take with you on every trip?
A favorite piece of gear.
Or something that may not be a favorite, but something that I just never leave home without this.
It may sound really silly, but one thing I like to bring with me, I have these little lights. I know it's not a piece of gear. It's a thing.
That counts.
Well, I love ambiance. There's certain things that make me feel, and I love candles. I love lights. I got that maybe from A16. Remember that we were so careful about all the lighting in the log cabins. Yeah. I just might have to just say that.
All right. Yeah, like string light kind of things you hang it from the tent. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. They're kind of in the back here on the table already, right here.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. The Lucy Light folks make a bunch of those cool things. Yeah. Yeah. And how about a favorite book? Do you have a favorite book?
Ooh, I think that one book that had a profound impact on me because of its imagery was Beryl Markham, West with the Night.
Oh, I don't know.
She was an African bush pilot.
Oh, all right.
And she writes about her flying over, and she was just a brilliant writer, and she brought everything to life. And I was reading it at a time when I had nothing to look at. So
gotcha.
It was really helpful.
Yeah. I want to write that one down.
But that's one. Yeah.
Yeah, good. I'll check that one out. And as we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to say to our listeners or ask of our listeners?
Oh boy. It might be what we started talking about earlier, kind of off the record. And that is that every single one of us matters. And I think that of all the expeditions I've been on, this is the biggest, boldest one that we're all on right now. And it's about every one of us participating and taking some action and taking care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. And that's what I want to say, because I think that we're just living in a really bizarre world right now. And I think that kindness, we need more of that. It's a very precious resource. So
yeah, we all need to realize we're living together on this planet, right? It's not just one or the other.
And we all matter a lot more than we think we do.
Yep. Very well said.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great talking to you. Thanks for coming on the show. I look forward to doing some podcasting with you. That'll be fun and an adventure as well.
Yeah, I look forward to it too, Rick.
Yeah.
Great to see you, my
Yeah.
friend.
You too. Been many years. I think it was at that
Many years.
ATTA
You
event.
haven't changed a minute.
Ha. Well, I'm glad people think that. Or I'm glad you think that.
Yes, that's the important thing is we
That's
think
right.
that.
That's right. Well, awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Lifestyle Podcast. Be sure to visit our website, ricksaez.com, where you'll find show notes and links to everything we talked about and more. And while you're at it, if you found value in this show, give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or spread the word and tell a friend. That would really help us out too. Be sure to tune in every week, and thanks again for listening to the Outdoor Adventure Lifestyle Podcast.